All right, ladies, welcome to week 3. This is the Discipline and Preparedness Intensive Intentional Failure. I'm excited about tonight's session. I know that we are in the middle of the Oscar Awards. However, I just wanted to thank you for those who took the time to sign on tonight. In spite of, we'll be off shortly. You know it's going to be on a very long time, so you won't miss the Best Supporting Actor and Actress or the leading role or the best movie. They save those to the end. So this is week 3, intentional failure. I hope you all have not given up on this discipline and preparedness intensive. I want to really get through our presentation on today because I want to really talk to you a little bit about what the past 2 weeks have been like for you. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the changes? And what are some of the celebratory moments that you all have had? So when we talk about intentional failure, I really want to get into the point or the fact on today that we're failing forward, and for us not to get afraid or become stagnant or to give up on destiny and purpose because of some mistakes that we've made. And so before we get started, I want to actually, for us to start off with prayer, and that we cover our session on today, and that we talk about our failures and how do we learn from them. So Father, we thank you so much for this time that you've allowed us to spend together. We thank you, Father, for the women who have decided to come together, Lord God, to chase after you, to seek destiny, the plan that you have for each of us, God. We thank you, Lord, that you placed us in this moment, in this season, in the middle of our Jeremiah 29:11. For we know that in our Jeremiah 1:5, you had already given us a purpose before we were a person. So God, we just thank you, Father God, that we are seeking you to find us, that we are seeking you to be fulfilled and fruitful in what you've given us to do. We ask that you bless our businesses. We ask that you bless our families. We ask that you bless, Father God, our desires, our goals, our purpose, Father God, that you've given us, Lord, that everything that we put our hands to, Lord, that is in your will, Father, that you will allow it to manifest and that you will allow it to be successful. Lord, we speak to you on today and seeking you like Nehemiah when he went to build the wall, Father God, he asked God that you allow it to be successful. And so even though we see vision and we've not yet become the vision, we ask God that you allow us, Father, to not come down from the wall, not come down from the place that we're building, Father God, until that thing manifests. We ask God that you allow us not to get distracted, to remain disciplined and to remain focused on the purpose and the assignment at hand. Lord, we give you the glory. We thank you for being a forgiving God. And we ask God that you forgive us of our sins, known and unknown, seen and unseen. Give us the resiliency, the tenacity, Father God, the bounce back, Lord God, Father, to be able to move forward in whatever it is that has called us to feel inadequate, and whatever it is that's called us to feel that we have failed. And Lord, we thank you, Lord, that you are bigger. You are bigger than any failure. You're bigger than any plan. You're bigger than anything that is before us. And so, God, we thank you for that. We ask, God, that you continue to bless our hands, continue to bless our hearts and our minds to align with your purpose and your will. We thank you for this meeting on tonight. And Father, we look forward to a blessed time in Jesus Christ's name. Amen and amen. All right, ladies, we're talking about intentional failure on tonight. Before we get started, I want to remind you, you already have your DPI accountability partner. You will be receiving your resource guide. We are working diligently, collaborating, collecting, and pulling together these resources. We want to make it extensive. We want to make sure that it covers all the areas that you can pull from so that you can have this right at your fingertips, okay? Also, your DPI curriculum is coming this week from the Blueprint. And so I want to make sure that you do get that. If you haven't, go ahead and order it. For those of you who do have it, you will have some actions that we'll talk about, and we'll go through that on tonight. So intentional failure, here is with intentional failure, it's known as intelligent failure. However, Will Smith has coined it as intentional failure, and it kind of took storm. Some authors have written about intentional failure, but what it ideally, if you have heard about failing forward, that's what it is. Utilizing, reacting and responding to those failures as productive, as looking at what can you, what did your failure produce in your life? What did the failure produce as a lesson? And so oftentimes we come against a failure and we think that that is the end. We look at it as, I wasn't successful in this particular area, so therefore it must not be the season. It must not be the time. Especially as believers, we often say, well, it didn't work out. Maybe that's not what God had for me. Maybe it is what God had for you, but maybe it's a lesson that you need to learn because he knows what's ahead of you. And oftentimes we are faced with giants and we are looking at the giants from a grasshopper mentality. We know that we're asking God for bigger. We know that we're asking God to expand our territory. And so we're hopping around with a grasshopper mentality because we feel that our failures mean that we no longer can produce and pursue our purpose. And so what we now have to look at is looking at our failure as a form of fuel, looking at our failure as a lesson, and taking it as a benchmark. So when you think about your failures, oftentimes I've heard people say, well, I don't fail, I learn. And that's great because that is the type of mentality we should have when we face the giants in our life, we face the fears in our life, when our business doesn't go as planned, when our careers don't go as planned, or when we actually put in a plan in place and it doesn't produce the results that we thought it should. And so when we're talking about pursuing our success, when we are coming up against an opportunity, it's not always that it's for us to put it to the side, put it down, put it on the shelf. So I want us to look tonight as you are trying to pursue this practice of discipline in whatever quadrant you're working in, whether it's producing, whether it's your business, whether it's your brand, whether it's your family, whether it's fitness. I think most of us were working in the fitness quadrant, and that's a big challenge. You're coming against all different types of distractions and even your own personal self. And so what you want to look at that is you don't want to look at it as failure. You want to look, what can I learn? What barriers can I put in place? So for example, if you say, I have a weakness, if you're working in the fitness quadrant and you didn't work out today and then you didn't work out day 2, well, you need to learn from that failure. You need to look at are you setting your surroundings and your environment up for success? Did you do that? Or did you not? And learn from that. Did you go to an event and not prepare snacks in advance? Did you not know when you went to the restaurant what was on the menu before you went? You want to set yourself up for an opportunity to succeed. When you fail, then you look at the opportunity and say, what is the lesson and how can I proceed instead of digress or instead of stop? So when we talk about intentional failure, it's utilizing that failure as fuel, okay? And so I don't know if you had a chance. I normally send 2 videos, and I forgot to send the second video, but it started off with Will Smith. And so I didn't know if you ladies had a chance. Put in the chat if you had a chance to view it. If you didn't, that's fine. But in the chat, put in if you did get a chance and put what you thought was very critical or really empowering for you and impactful. So as you're doing that, I will continue to proceed. Let's see here. It says, okay, so Marsha saw it. And so Marsha, if anything stood out to you, put that in the chat so I can talk about it as well. Let me tell you, ladies, when I saw this video, I've heard Will Smith talk, and I've heard him motivate, and I heard him inspire. What I'm talking about is at the end of the video, there was a Marine, and he said that they would be under the water as they're training and they're practicing. He said they would be submerged underwater, and the goal was to get above the ship or the thing that was they were under. So they had to train in order to get from under the submarine to get on top of it. He says that they trained in elements in the weather that was, when I tell you like cold, he said it was negative degrees, and they were out there and you could give up, you could go. He said the captain told them, or the trainer or the general, he told them, he said, all we need is 5 people. If 5 of y'all walk away, then we can stop. Like we can stop right now. And when he said that anytime you are in, he said the only thing you have to do to stop practicing, to not get to the end, to not produce, to not get your certificate of completion is if you would get up and go ding the bell. And so I don't know if you've seen the movie G.I. Jane, or if you've seen the movie where they would have that have all these calisthenics, and they would go through all of these measures of training. And if you wanted to give up, it became unbearable and you couldn't do it anymore. All you had to do was take the thing and ring the bell. He says, you don't want to ring the bell. If you don't give up, all you have to do is not ring the bell. So I want to encourage you all tonight, as you, if you haven't, go and listen to it, but make sure that as you're practicing your discipline, I don't want you all to ring the bell. I don't want you all to give up because the calisthenics that you're doing mentally are not aligning with what you see physically. Because what's happening over the last couple of weeks is that you're training your brain to do something different or differently and to think something in a different way. You're asking yourself to go against your comfort zone. You're asking yourself not to give up on your destiny, on your plans, not to get sidetracked, and not to get excited and allow the excitement when it goes away, not to produce what you've said that you're going to do. And so Marsha's putting in here, practice is controlled failure. Fail early, fail often, and fail fast. Yes, that area is right outside Tijuana. No matter what, don't ring the bell. And that is it. Do not ring the bell. He says, instead, be at your best in the darkest moment. She says, Marsha says that really resonated and hit home for her. Y'all, we cannot, even in our darkest moments, we have to be at our very best. And so even in the moments, we talked about emotional intelligence last week. That's where understanding your emotion, managing your emotions all come in to this intentional failure. And what are you going to do once you have been placed in a situation and things didn't turn out the way we thought? What do you do with that intentional failure, the lesson from that? And so I want to encourage you. How hungry are you? If you did not watch this video, this one had Morgan Freeman on it, but it was Les Brown. And so if you had an opportunity to see this video, I want you to think about, it says, doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will, because we doubt and we have it in our mind. And what normally or typically happens is when we talk about Les Brown was in there and he was just really sharing with us about common people do common things in an uncommon way, and that's what gets the attention of the world. We may look like what we're doing is not succeeding or is not effective. You may think that the time blocking, you may think that you accomplishing micro goals are not going to lead you to the macro purpose. What I'm encouraging you to do in this week is to make sure you're looking at your opportunities, your intentional failures as lessons to propel you forward. Okay. And so those are the things that it's not about saying being evangelical, but it's more so knowing that we're going to fail. There are going to be instances in which we are going. Just a second, please. All righty. My apologies, ladies. So when we think about it, when you're looking at this video, one of the key things that Les Brown was talking about is that you got to be hungry. And so I want to ask you all, how hungry are you? How hungry? And put it in the chat. How hungry are you? Because if you really think about how hungry are you to pursue your destiny, how hungry are you to take back your life, Marissa, from always having to work and always being reactive and responsive to others? How hungry are you, Dr. Boland, as it relates to you building your brand and expanding your brand, impacting your employees and growing yourself as a businesswoman? How hungry are you, Amelia, at you producing this new nonprofit organization for single moms or for mothers and their daughters? How hungry are you, Heather, at starting your being full-time in your own business? How hungry are you at make your mark be global? When you think about that, it's almost like, how hungry are you? And so I just want to just be, transparent with you all. When you are focusing on your goals, you're going to have failure. You're going to have challenges. You're going to take some losses. But in that loss, it's about how hungry are you? And I always tell people, you can talk about me. You can say whatever you want. Kiana says she's starving. Yes. But when you are hungry and you're seeking purpose and you living out your destiny, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, it will not knock you out of the game. And there's been times in business and in ministry that I wanted to give up over and over again. And I failed several times. I didn't get things right. Internally fighting battles, knowing my own insecurities, knowing my own shortcomings. But how do you continue to build after failure? How do you continue to build after a loss? And so I want us to start looking at how we're looking at our successes and how we're looking at our failures and always learning. We got to start being in a place where we're always learning. One thing about me is I'm a learner, and I'm always looking to seek knowledge and to seek how I can advance. And the one thing is, whenever I learn it, that's right, Dr. Boland, she says, I'm starving too. And that's the thing. When I'm looking out, people always ask me. I had Talisha over today, and she tutors McKinley on Sunday afternoons, and she says, she was just talking, she said, she just wondered, some people, how do you do it? How do you do all of it? And, I just told her, I said, it's prioritization, communication, lots of prayer, but also being very deliberate and intentional. And when I fail, I know that it's not the end. I don't look at every place in my life as the end. And I used to look at it like, this is it. It's over. It didn't happen this way. It's over. And it's not the end. So I wanted you, if you haven't, go back. And I want you all to take a look at those videos, okay? So success takes practice. And when you think about it, look at this. Thomas Watson says, would you like me to give you a formula for success? It's quite simple, really. Double your rate of failure. You're not thinking of failure as the enemy of success, but it isn't. No, you're thinking of failure as the enemy of success, but it isn't at all. You can be discouraged by failure, or you can learn from it. So go ahead and make mistakes. Make all you can, because remember, that's where you'll find success. And so what I want to share with you is that when you are failing forward, you are practicing. I talked with you all a week ago, and we were talking about practicing. And every time you're out there, think about in terms of individuals who are preparing for basketball. When they're preparing, think about, so we're in March, and so they're going to do this March Madness thing for the NBA, right? And one thing that they do is they have like regular season, right? In this regular season, they count all the games that you win and that you lose. But every game is practice till it gets to the playoffs. So yeah, regular season, you may have a not so good win-loss score, right? But it really doesn't matter, because it's not the playoffs. And so once you get to the playoffs, that's when it really matters. That's when the win and the losses really matters. So all before now is practice, practice, practice. And so if you're preparing for your business and you're putting together your plan and you're trying to establish certain things, parameters for your business, you're just practicing so that you can show up for the big day, so that you can show up for the win, so you can show up to secure the win. And when you think about it, it's not about making mistakes deliberately. It's about setting yourself up to succeed. However, if that plan does not go the way in which we intended for it to do, it doesn't mean to give up on your destiny. It doesn't mean to put it down. And it don't mean, Kiana, close your store. And so here are some expectations of intentional failure. I shared these with my Winning on Wednesday as well. Expect for there to be a journey to the destination, ladies, instead of expecting only to arrive. And that's a mouthful, because, and write that down. We'll have the replay, but think about it. Many of us just expect to arrive. We think that we're going to have success, have profit, have, prosperity. We're going to have all these great things without a journey. And we have to learn to enjoy the journey. There's so much that I learned about myself in my PhD journey. I wanted so badly to have this doctorate done. It was such a weight on my shoulders. I was so ready to get done. But through that journey, I learned a lot about me. I learned a lot. I learned some things that I did not know. For example, I did not know. I've always been a resilient, and I had grit, but I didn't know that I could fight from a low place. Like, I didn't know that I could really fight from a dark place. I didn't know that. I didn't know, that when seasons changed, that I could look at those seasons and say, I don't put that goal down. The goal just shifts. Those are things that I've been teaching and things that we've been talking about. I didn't know that. But I learned about myself in the journey that I wanted to change my bloodline. I wanted to change the lineage. So that was greater than any challenge or any failure. When my proposal didn't get accepted the first time, when my committee chair didn't respond and I had to change and get someone new, when I missed the deadline to graduate a whole semester before, and I'm literally, so what I'm telling you is you learn so much from the journey. So expect for there to be a journey to your destination instead of expecting only to arrive. All right. Expect real-time learning where you will be faced with making on-the-spot decisions that will put a demand on your gifts, your skills, and talents on the inside of you. Ladies, let me tell you something. We have to stop being so pressured when we have to make decisions. We're so indecisive. I don't know. When you are stuck between a rock and a hard place, that is when you lean on God, you lean on the Holy Spirit, and that's when He's putting a demand on the gift. The situation is putting a demand on what's inside of you. It's answering a prayer. And I learned this the hard way. I'm like, wow. So what's happening is when someone asks you to do something, or something comes to you, or you're faced with something in business and you've never been there before, that's that answered prayer you've been asking God to take you to a new level. You don't know what new level look like. How can you don't know what the new level look like. So until you have a demand to rise up to that occasion or to produce from that level, you'll never know that you can accomplish that thing. So expect real-time learning. It's going to happen in the moment. You've been asking, you've been praying, you've been prepared. You've been preparing yourself. So when you're faced with on-the-spot decisions, when you're faced with rocks in hard places, when you're faced with, I don't know if I can, or if it's, you got to go back and forth and ask 50,000 people, that is a demand being placed on your gift, your skills, your talents, your knowledge. And will you rise to the occasion? So expect the real-time learning, especially for those of you who are in business and you're asking God to expand your territory. Are you seeking to expand your clientele? Are you changing your target market? And let me tell you, ladies, something. I want to stop here just a little bit and just talk with you. And I'll give you a personal point of inquiry. I do branding, I do consulting, professional development, and I have clients. Most of that is privatized. You hardly ever see me market that. You probably have never seen me market it. But I do. I have clients that I take, and only Heather, myself, and the client know that we're working together, and they go through 3 months of intensive brand development. And because it's very privatized, and it's a different target audience that I pursue for that. And so when I start getting, senior vice presidents, and I start getting CEOs, companies, I'm like, okay, yeah, that is God putting a demand on your gift. When I just signed a contract about 3 weeks ago for a $1.2 million facility, working with the company to develop their curriculum and their training. And so what I'm telling you, they're building a $1.2 million facility. They are having, I mean, this program that they're rolling out is amazing, is global. And they saw me and said, hey, I saw you at this conference. I met you. I've watched you. Didn't know that they were even watching me. And you're consistent, you produce at high levels, and you're very professional. We really want to meet with you before we meet with our attorney, and we want to see how we can work together. I sent them a proposal. They didn't say, oh, it's too high, it's too, no. I sent them the proposal and they said, yes, we're ready to work with you. Where do we sign? We're looking to start XYZ date. What I'm telling you, then I got a little nervous because I'm like, wait a minute, there was no negative. There was no, because we're so used to resistance and we're so used to the fight. When God prepares you and you've been preparing, he will place a demand there for you to rise up to those type of, we talked about belief. We talked about your focus. When we coming in now talking about intentional failure, all of that has to do with here first. And so I'm putting together the whole proposal. I'm like, oh yeah, this is me. I'm all in love. Y'all, I love I'm just falling in love all over with this development, giving them. So what I'm telling you is when you're placed in those situations, don't think that you got to run from it. When you talk about intentional failure, expect that you're going to have a demand and you're going to have to rise to the occasion. Chat it up if you have questions. I want you to put in chat. She said, oh, okay. She said private. Okay, so when I say that, and you think about, when you look at it, it says, expect to make mistakes, but take notes, because all the clues of success are lessons from yesterday's failures. That's big. All the clues of success are lessons from yesterday's failure. And when you think about yesterday's failures, I know that many of us have hit a roadblock in our life where we feel like we can't get out, or I'll tell you, especially if you're trying to transition from your job or corporate America or those things, sometimes we feel like we can't get out, we're trapped. We feel like we have bills and responsibilities and we have these things. What I've learned is that I'm not failing at what I do. I'm not failing at my purpose. I'm actually taking clues. I'm actually putting these clues and say, I'm building my clientele, even though I'm still in this situation. And so what I'm sharing with you is the skills of what you think is a failure. You have to learn. You don't know when you're going to need that skill. You don't know when you're going to need that lesson. You don't know when you're going to have to pull that out of your tool belt. Always say, get a notch on your belt. Get your ticket punched. You're going to have to roll in dirt sometimes. You're going to have to take some things that you don't want to take, do some stuff that you don't want to do, and nothing that's going to compromise your Christian character and integrity, but some things that's going to compromise your position where you feel like, I'm past this. There are some times in my life I feel like I'm saying, man, I'm way overqualified for this. And I was operating from a sense of pride and not knowing that I had a client coming up that I was going to need to let them know, not necessarily do the job, but I was going to have to tell them how. But had I not had the previous experience, which I thought was I'm a failure because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I actually needed that particular knowledge base to actually tell them how to do it. No joke. So what I'm telling you is success, take all the clues that's there because yesterday's failure are those clues. Practice until you see the outcomes you see in your dreams. That is a big deal, ladies. Practice until you see the outcomes you want to see. Or when you've dreamed about things, it manifests. It may not manifest the first time, but when you are continuing to practice, let me tell you, I see myself, and I think I told you all this. I had this, I don't know if it was a dream, I don't know if it was a vision, but I was about, I'm gonna say 19 or 20, and I could see myself literally speaking to a room of thousands and thousands of women. Yo, I could see it clear, like to this day. And it scared me then, but I wasn't mature enough to handle it. I've sat in a room and I've spoke with hundreds of women, but I told you this was thousands. It's coming. It's coming. Not one time, but that will be my lifestyle. That will be. So what I'm telling you, I'm practicing. Every time you see me speak, every time you see me pouring into every speaking engagement, the training and thing, that's why I show up every time. I'm practicing until the outcomes are what I saw in that dream. So if you see yourself with, I see a building. I know that DKEG will be a whole training organization, a whole professional development company, big. It's not just something that I dream about. It's something I know it's going to manifest, and I'm practicing, positioning. And if you see yourself in a particular situation in your dreams, and that's your purpose, then what are you doing today that's going to get you to your tomorrow? What are you doing tomorrow that's going to get you to your next day? What are you doing on the next day that's going to get to you to the end of your week? What I'm saying is every day is a practice. Every day you're getting better. And so what I'm sharing with you, when we talk about intentional failure, these are some of the expectations. It's not going to just happen. It's going to be a compilation of happenings. Think about that. It's not going to just happen. It's going to be a compilation of happenings that get you to that place of success. 1 second, y'all. They're at my door. Hold on 1 second. Okay, thank you. If you have questions, comments, please put them in the chat. All right, so I put here, failure is not an option, it is inevitable. When you think about it, ladies, failure is not about celebrating your failure or embracing it. I don't want you to think what we're talking about tonight is, oh, let's go out and have a plan of failure. No, what I'm saying is you have a plan of success. However, when you come across those challenges and those lessons and those particular things, then you don't look at them as I failed. You look at them as I'm learning. And sometimes they're costly. And so you want to talk about low risk, medium risk, and high risk failures. If you're working in an area where there's a true high risk, then you want to think about those risk factors before you even enter into that thing. You don't go in saying, oh, I'm going to buy a new building, but you haven't yet calculated the cost. That's scripture there. So you don't even go and say, I'm going to go get this whole new location. You hadn't what is it going to cost the barrier to entry? What is it going to cost to maintain and keep it? You have to know that you're not celebrating failure, embracing. I'm not telling you that. You have a plan of success, but it's about making sure that if it's low, medium, and a high risk, that you're talking about low risk, high risk, medium risk as it relates to failure. The type of project, the type of programs. There's sometimes, let me give you all an example. So I had run, and Heather can attest to this. I've run several programs that have literally had 0 people sign up. And it was quite heartbreaking. Like literally heartbreaking. There have been, and these are programs that we put money into. I've created content, and nobody signed up. So I had to start giving away for free so that I could even at least get 2 people in the class. So one lady bought a ticket. I'm not joking. I can't make this stuff up. And she bought the ticket like a day before that. And I said, Heather, leave registration open, because I was hopeful. And I had one person, and I'm the type of person, if I have one person sign up, I'm doing the whole class, and she'll tell you. And so I had one person sign up. I gave another ticket away to a young lady who wanted to be a part, and so that they could have dialogue in the class. We did that class, y'all, like it was full. Okay. We did it like it was full. I'll never forget it. It was the first virtual vision. And I met the lady to give her content because it was too, she got it the day before, so I couldn't mail it to her and get it. So I met her and gave it to her that morning. The class was like an hour after. And we did that class. I'm telling you. And what I want to share with you is not about I gave up or I'm never going to offer it again. I offered it again. I had several people. We've been doing vision since then, and have a virtual vision coming up. What I am telling you is that when you set a plan, it's for success. But when you come up against an opportunity and it's a roadblock and someone doesn't show up, that doesn't mean you stop. Now, I'm a vision strategist. I've been doing vision and coming up with strategies to help people produce and do vision to action. If I would have given up then, there's several women and men who were trying to birth and produce that wouldn't have produced because the destiny assignment on my life was connected to the destiny assignment on theirs. That is what I mean. I had another session. It was called, I was helping people build their team. And I didn't get anybody to sign up. Don't stop me. What I'm sharing with you is that we're not taught to fail. We're taught to resist it. We're taught if it fails, then I can't face it. I'm not going to do it anymore. We go internal. It's something about me. The Lord must not want me. No, it's not always the case that the Lord doesn't want you to accomplish things. And so I'm sharing with you is that no, when we think about it, we're not, who's taught to fail? We're all taught to succeed. We're taught to, be the best. I don't hide my failures because other people are dealing with them as well. If they haven't, they will. And if they haven't, then they will have it coming up soon. So at the end of the day, we're not taught to fail. We are taught to resist it. And so just because something didn't happen the first time doesn't mean that it's not going to. Yeah, that's true, Marsha. So Marsha says some folk would rather lie than admit failure. It has a bad rep like humility. Yeah, that's it. And so when you think about it, I'm not a failure. That class just didn't happen. And Heather was like, what are you going to do? She's so good. She's always right there. She's like, what are you going to do? I was like, girl, I'm going to wait and see. And we'll wait till the 9th hour. If nobody registers, and we're like, well, we got our Saturday back and we're going about our business. And we regroup and we re-strategize and we keep it moving. So set up a plan to succeed and know that your plan will include moments of failure. Just don't stay there. Just don't stay there. And I always say, do it afraid. People say, you're so courageous. You're so this. I might be, but I be afraid a lot of days. And I've learned that even in fear, I have to show up. And even if no one shows up, I have to believe in me. I told you, I'm going to bet on me for anything else. I'm going to always bet on me. You know why? Because I'm going to show up. So practice discipline. Now, this is where you all come off mute. It's where you come off mute. And I'm asking you all these questions and we'll go. So how does failure feel to you? We're coming off mute. Okay. Wait a minute. How does failure feel to you? Can you all see me? I'm trying to see y'all.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks.
It does suck. Anybody else? How does that feel? How do you feel when things don't go the way you thought they should go?
It actually makes me want to try harder because I'm not accepting that. So I just, look at it as what lesson was I supposed to learn from that? And what can I do differently? Because in that failure, that was something that I was to learn.
That's it. Because oftentimes, and it takes a while for us to get there. It takes a while. Sharon says it's a tough pill to swallow. And to Dr. Boland's point, it does. Sometimes you look at failure and you says, it's almost like looking at a no. If somebody told you no, if you think about it, you're like, oh, no, you don't, no, I'm going to make it happen. There is a way. And so sometimes failure is our fuel, but we got to get past the pain and the hurt first, the disappointment. And then once we get past the pain and disappointment, we can see a different perspective. And so it's sometimes when you think about failure, it makes you feel inadequate. It makes you look at other people and see their success. Anybody ever felt that way where you look at someone else's success and you had a failure and you're like, wow, how is this happening to, Joe, or how is this happening to, Joelle? And here I am struggling and it looks easy for them. Anybody ever felt that way?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are some ways that you coped and dealt with that?
Well, sometimes I think it's, for me, it depends on what the failure was. If it was like a really huge one, that I had a pretty heavy setback about a year or so ago, and I just had to stop. I just had to stop and catch my breath because it took the wind out of me, and it affected my attitude towards people and what could I trust anybody anymore, and things like that. So there was no immediate jump back. There was no bounce back. And so, and many times I wanted to just throw in the towel and ring the bell. I wanted to ring the bell. And, but something inside of me just said, no, we're not going to ring the bell, but I need you to be still and regroup, re-strategize, and take a look at the people that you are actually hanging out with, and start regrouping that group and get with like-minded people. So that's what I did, and building that together. I was with the wrong people, and I didn't either I knew it and didn't want to admit it, or didn't want to admit that failure. Had I admitted that failure, that I was with the wrong people, that I may not have fallen so hard.
Wow.
But because I didn't cut it off or nip it in the bud, then the fall was a lot harder. So it took me a while to come back. If it was a smaller thing, like somebody going against or dealing with objectives, rejections and things like that, on a sales call or something, I can come back with something else pretty quickly.
Okay.
But so it would just actually depend.
Okay. So it's more so based on the risk. Is that what you're saying?
On the risk, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. And one thing about, I'm just reading comments as well. One thing about failure, sometimes failure is an act, and then sometimes it's an act of becoming. It's a difference. When you fail because there is an act, like something did not happen, we can typically look at it, regroup, reset, and start over. But if we look at ourselves as a failure, if we look at, and that's a different thing. So when we look at the work or the things that we've done, we haven't significantly contributed to, or we feel like we fail, that's a different place. That's a little bit more difficult to bounce back from. And so we have to give ourselves some grace. We have to extend ourselves some grace, because we don't want to walk in a sense of we failed our family, we failed our kids, we failed, in our marriage, we failed ourselves, we failed at our job. Because when you start to get weighted down with all of those things, then you go into a dark place. Anybody ever felt that way, where you feel like, well, it's not the thing, because sometimes we can deal with if something happens. It's when we look at ourselves as the failure. And even strong people, because sometimes the strong people get left behind. I don't know if you've ever felt that way, but I'll be just the first person to say this. I don't get a chance to be weak. I never get a chance to be weak. I never get a chance to be vulnerable. I never get a chance to feel sad for myself. And I say that because every time I could be having a horrible day and I'm just crying or I'm feeling some kind of way, and people will literally just say, oh, you're fine, girl. You'll bounce back. It's you. Girl, God got you. And, you this. And I'm like, are you literally kidding me? I'm literally feeling down. I'm feeling like a failure. I don't care how much you see success with your eyes. If you don't see beyond what's on the exterior, you don't know what people are dealing with. And so it's harder to pull back those layers and deal with that form of failure than just saying, oh, I failed at something. Okay. So that's a little difficult. Let me give you a low risk. So we did staycation. And I was running, and we were in Disney, and Heather was intercepting them for me. We did the proof. I got it in. I checked it. Everything was fine. Something just told me in my spirit to ask Heather, was the back of the barcode on there? When I asked her, she said, oh, I don't know. I'm not at home. I'll check. So Tanya had bought one. I said, Tanya, can you check the back of your book? I want to know if the barcode is on the back. I don't know why. It just hit me. She says, girl, it ain't even on there. I went ballistic. I could beat myself up because I had to check the proof. Well, the barcode is not on the back. So I emailed the printing company and went left. This is unacceptable and all this. Low risk. They sent me a whole bag of, like the library that you put on, your ISBN. So that's low risk. Do I feel like a failure? I felt like I failed because I was so busy that I missed that my proof didn't have the barcode on it. And then I started thinking about, how would people see me? Here I am as this publisher. Here I am as this, and nobody even noticed. And if they did, so what? The ISBN is printed on the inside. And you can literally look up the book. It's legitimized. Well, this is a low risk, but here I am feeling like, oh my gosh, you're a publishing company. You don't do this. We have to extend ourselves with grace. That's low risk. Okay. Oh, really? All right. Medium risk would be if you're at work the other day. No, I can only use examples for myself. I'm presenting to a group. I had sent it to myself in advance. Heather knows I'm always ahead. I'm like, I'm going to go to Starbucks for 45 minutes. I'm going to get me some coffee, go over my notes. Got it? This is medium risk. I dropped my son off. Holy Spirit says, read your notes now. I'm like, no, I'm going to go to Starbucks, chill out. I said, let me go and read these notes. Y'all, I pulled the notes out. I had put 3 slides of the same text in the presentation. Medium risk, because had I gone, that's very medium. But I was close enough. I had enough time. I went home, changed the slides out, saved it, sent it to myself, didn't go to Starbucks, went to the conference, Walked in, I still had a whole 30, 40 minutes because they were not running behind. But again, I was there early. I was already prepared. And then I was at medium risk growth, because in the past, I would have been beating myself up about how horrible and how, efficient I know I am, and how could I overlook this? And I do quality checks. And medium risk, I'm not a failure. I made a mistake. Okay. So I want you to think of terms when you're thinking about high risk failure, acts of failure. There's a difference when you take an action and you say you failed than when you think you are a failure. When you start to say that you are a failure, you're internalizing things that you probably don't need to accept, because we talked about pride, eradicating pride. Remember that when we start to say we have the Messiah syndrome, we hold up the world, everything's on our shoulders, that is something that we walk in a form of pride. So remember that. And we got to learn to bounce back from those places, those dark places. We have to learn that is warfare. Okay, so I do want to get back to our presentation. Okay, next question. What are your systems of discipline? All right, tell me, what are your systems of discipline? Oh, y'all don't have no systems? Oh, y'all ain't got no systems.
This is Heather. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think my systems of discipline, because I manage so many different pieces and so many different people, my discipline aspect is really to be strategic in writing everything down, and then organize it from there, because I can essentially really get lost. So I just really try to discipline myself, even though, a lot of times I'm quick to say, oh, let me just go ahead and do it. No, I need to write it down so that I can see where I'm missing places when I make mistakes. That way, if I've written it down, then I'm able to go back and really track my steps.
That's good.
I find that I have, from my corporate life and now into my private life and business, that my systems of discipline are different. And even my deadlines, I lived around, I worked in a place where there were many deadlines every single day. And so I didn't have the luxury of sitting back and having to wait to make a decision. I had to make a quick decision, but because I knew what I was doing, I could either delegate it or make the decision and keep on pushing. But the thing is that then I was able to develop some guidelines or manuals or things to do. This is how we start: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all the way up to 10, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I would write it down and do the steps to take in order to make this particular thing happen. Now, in my personal life, because I don't answer to anybody except myself, I have become more lax in that, and I'm not as disciplined as I would like to be. And I'll just, and I will, like Heather, I will write it down. But do I put it in actual steps to take next time this happens? And a lot of the times, no, I don't. But I have to, just realize, and that's why I'm here, because I realize that discipline is a form of self-sabotage, and that's a lot of times where I am. It's where I live, and I need to move.
That's it. And you know what? One thing I want to remind us too, of the H cubed. Remember, head, heart, and hand.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have an idea or formulate a goal or something in our mind, and now we're inspired in our heart. That's why we get the excitement. That's why we are pulled and we gravitate toward it. But if it never reaches our hands,
right,
and we remain inspired and we remain, thinking about it. Have you ever had somebody was like, man, this has been really on me. I need to, but they've never put it into action? That's more so you haven't operated in the full H3. You've only hit H1 and H2. So now this whole 30-day is about getting that into your hands and doing the work. And so, for example, and thanks for sharing, Heather and Marcia, as well, because when I'm talking about systems, these are systems so Marcia was twofold. She says, I had a discipline, a practice of discipline, a system of discipline because of the structure that was there, because of the goals and the outcomes that had to be met, right? Mm-hmm. Now that I'm in my business and my personal life, there is no, no true negative impact that's not a controllable for her.
Yeah, I don't have a formula.
And so what I'm sharing with you all is put some systems in place with your practices of discipline, like your action items. So for example, in the morning, I have a system of discipline. I don't check certain things in the morning. I don't do when I get up in the morning, that is my time with God. That's my prayer time. I get on his phone at 6:00 in the morning. I listen to worship. I go into prayer, and then I don't, anything after that. So if it's after 6:30, 7:00, then I can check social media or do certain things after that. That is my system of discipline, because let me tell you about me. If I start checking emails, text messages, I won't get to my prayer. I won't set my day. I won't ask God to command my day. Here I am running and getting the kids ready. And that system has now been destructed. Like it's just destroyed.
Yeah.
When it comes to a system of producing, when I am in a level of high productivity. So if I'm writing a book, I have systems of discipline. I'm up at 4. I do not answer, call anybody, text, or do anything between the hours of 4 a.m. up until my kids get up, and they could get up at 6 or 7. All right, so I got 2 to 3. I have a short window to be productive. All right. So what I'm saying is you got to establish a system. And if you don't have systems, if you're just flying by the seat of your pants or living by a checklist is a practice. It's not a system. Okay. Another system you could have. So working out. What is your system of discipline? Are you food prepping? Are you packing your bag? What is it? Then I'm going into number 3. Feelings impact our discipline, and let me tell you how. So when you think about how you feel, like y'all know I count points. Well, I wasn't feeling well this week, and I said, I'm not counting no points today. And I was eating snacks because I wasn't feeling well. That's no excuse. I could have had apples. I could have had cheese, a cheese stick. It's all about your practice of discipline and putting those systems in place when you're talking about how you feel. Our feelings impact our level of discipline. If you're sad, you really don't produce. If you're excited, I posted something in the group today. I said, stop saying you don't have time and just say out loud, it's just not a priority right now. So what you're saying is your purpose and your destiny is not a priority. But we sure will show up at everybody else though and make their purpose and destiny our priority. But guess what? They were in there producing. Okay. And you also have to share with people, sometimes I can't come to everything, not going to go to everything. And I'm okay with that because my life is not set up like that. I have to have a discipline system with my kids and my husband. You can't, everything is not going to win. Consistency is a choice, ladies. It's a choice. You choose to be consistent. It's not something that happens. Nobody's born consistent. Oh, she was born consistent. No, she practiced. And I'm asking you tonight, what have you truly changed? Because I'm about making that shift. I want to know, what are your areas where you feel that you're successful? What have you truly changed? Kiana, are you here? Kiana? Tanya, are you here? Amelia?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I want to talk about true change. Where do you feel that you've truly changed?
I've truly changed. One, spending more time and stopping. I think it was Kiana actually that I was listening to originally, and she made mention that she was constantly working on her business all day, every day. And I started thinking about it. I'm a professor and I will work from, I'm a part, excuse me, an adjunct currently, but I will be full-time come this week. Anyway,
Yeah.
But I find myself working and checking assignments, see if students have turned in any assignments all throughout the afternoon and the day. And I wasn't really, after a certain time, I was still working on it. I was still doing it, and I didn't set a time to stop. So I have stopped that. After a certain hour, I'll stop and then spend more time with Madison and Joseph and do things of that nature. I have, as far as my health is concerned, I have started to go work out more. I am being more consistent, and you're right. Sometimes if you don't feel well, you don't want to do certain things. So I have started, and I think somebody else was talking about meal prep on the group on Facebook, and I did start meal prepping. I'm not that type of person who likes to eat the same things over and over again. However, last week when you said, talking about focus, and there's always a solution to a problem. So I said, okay, instead of trying to fix everything a week in advance, I'll do a couple of days to kind of help myself out. So I do feel that I am changing. Can I do better? Absolutely. And it did take me a little while to really, really start getting it. But the point is, I am doing it. And so I do feel a little bit better about that. But I'm changing.
That's good. And the reason I was asking you ladies too, because when we talk about true change, it's when that aha moment hits you and you're like, oh, wow, if I would have, this really does make my life better. It does make it more effective. And you know what? I feel a little bit more in control of some controllables. Things we can't control, you can't control them. I had intentions of having all these toys finished, by now. I had help, hired help, and everything. And it just did not happen. And then when Tripp he got sick, and then McKinley, and then I've been battling all week, went to the doctor, and I barely could talk a couple of days. Things just did not work out the way for some things. So that was not as more important to me. So it moved on the prioritization list. However, there's curriculum that I had to still write. There are courses that I had to still teach. Those things, it did not matter how I felt. I still had to get through it. So when I'm telling you, because people are depending on you, and you got to show up. Now, if you're on your, where you literally cannot do anything, that's different. But because you just have a feeling, like when people say, well, I just didn't feel like it. What you mean? I don't understand that. I don't understand why I just didn't feel. I don't understand that if someone is depending on you and you just don't feel like it, and it's not, you're not sick, you're not, you ain't fighting no battles or nothing, you just didn't feel like it. That's just, to me, that's not an excuse. It's about commitment, doing what you said you would do long after the feeling in which you said you would do it in has left you. So your feelings have nothing to do with it. It's times I've committed to things, and as the day starts to get closer, I'm like, man, I don't feel like this. I don't even know why I said this. But guess what? You show up. All right. So true change, ladies, continue to practice on your change. So we're going to get to our curriculum. So I want to really spend some time. Scarcity versus abundance. And so if you got your Kingdom Boss Chick book out, you can mark it up. And so when you think about your scarcity and abundance mentality, it is at the back of the book. I should have marked my page. It is on page 75. And so one thing, because we're going to talk about the things on the right side, and then at the bottom, these are your actions. So when we think about it, I'm going to read a little bit here. It says, as business and career women, we must come to know the purpose and power of partnering. Such power builds and improves a collaborative advantage, which creates networks that wouldn't otherwise exist for us. Collaboration offers creativity and gives us as women the power to open doors of opportunity for one another. Joint strategic thinking is necessary for every Kingdom Boss Chick. In order to rewrite the narrative, we must understand the backstory. So we must understand how we as women have operated as a collective in subscribing to a scarcity mentality. So I want you all to come off of mute, and we're talking about scarcity and abundance. In a previous section in the book, I mentioned as women, we have historically been given little space in the church, few executive and leadership roles in corporate America and in business. And such lack has significantly contributed to how women view collaboration and partnership with other women. And so in that has been my experience. This is not in the book, so for those of you who are following, I don't have a different copy. I'm just kind of ad-libbing as I go for some. But little to very little opportunities in the workplace, business, and ministry. We typically operate from a scarcity mentality, always fighting the stigma of less than. And I say that, ladies, because when we're talking about you being able to produce, we're getting to the point now that we're talking about not being able to produce by yourself. And so we're nearing, this is week 3. So week 4, we're going to talk about discipline, but I want to talk about high producing. And if you are not clear on the gifts that you have to produce the goals and the outcomes, and you operate from a scarcity mentality, you will always operate from a place of lack. And so you'll always find yourself coming up short, because even though you may be an individual with a unique goal and purpose, it's going to take more than just you to produce that purpose at the greatest level. And you can ask anybody who you view as highly successful, high functioning, high producing, and highly profitable, that they didn't get to that level of success on their own. But you cannot have a scarcity mentality. And as women, I think, historically, we've been given little space, so therefore we typically operate from scarcity. People always ask me, why do you give, all the trade secrets away? Y'all, I tell you, I can give you exact blueprint. You will not do it like I do it. I cannot do it like Dr. Bolin. I cannot do it like Dr. Faith. I cannot do it like Amelia. I cannot do it like Sylvia. I cannot do it like Marsha. Again, so what I'm telling you is we have to eradicate the scarcity mentality. And so if you get the book, you'll read a little bit more about the mindset of scarcity and abundance. But scarcity breeds selfishness. It breeds jealousy, discontentment. It breeds lack, fear, and pettiness. Abundance breeds generosity, admiration, contentment, overflow, faith, and prosperity. Listen, you're like, why did we jump? We are now moving into Kingdom Boss Chick. We've talked about intentional failure. I'm switching gears. Now I'm dealing with the woman, because when we deal with the woman about what you're going to do with your goals, I want you to know that you're talking about building strategic alliances. So when you talk about your scarcity and abundance mentality, you need to understand that we have trust issues with other women, but you can't build alone. So even if you are a business owner, you're going to have staff, employees. You're going to have someone that's going to be a quality check for you. You're going to have, a quality gate. Whether you are a self-provider or service provider, you're going to have and work with people. So when we talk about, I put here first cousins, admiration and envy. Admiration and envy are first cousins, because we can admire someone, but then we have a piece of envy as well. You have to be very careful because they're first cousins. And so when we think about building strategic alliances, and that's what we're moving into, is how do you build those strategic alliances with other women and translate those into success? Because you want to build relationships that's going to not just, oh, that's my friend or my social circle. You want to build relationships that's going to generate some bread and butter. Like, I don't just want all my friends and people that I know that just, oh, hey, girl, this is my social circle. That's fine. I can go to church for social circles. When we're talking about building strategic alliances, we're talking about establishing, I know your purpose, you know my purpose. When there's a business venture going on and I can't take it, or it's not for me, I can now say, oh, well, Dr. Faith speaks. She does X, Y, and Z. Let me give you her information without feeling like if Dr. Faith show up, then I'm shrinking.
Right.
So in order for us to build successfully and build effectively, we have to build strategically. So you have to know your original blueprint, or your admiration will slowly leak into envy. Because the difference between admiration and envy is just a thought. It's how you perceive something or someone. Because I can admire you, but I can sit back and that same admiration start to envy what you are and who you are and what you have. So it's the reason why this curriculum is good, because we're talking about building strategic alliances. I don't want you to develop discipline. I don't want you to produce and then think you have to do it alone. But you have to know your original blueprint. And so if you look through, and what I want you to make sure that you identify your original blueprint. And so I've given some blueprints in the book. And so when you think about Deborah and Phoebe and Lydia, and you're thinking about their blueprint, I want you to read those blueprints. This is a quick read. You can finish this book today. Like, you can finish, it's that quick. And so when I tell you about the blueprints, I want to go through just one. So those who haven't gotten the book yet, you can really get the idea. So when I talk about the Boss Chick blueprint, what is your blueprint? So Lydia's blueprint on page 52 was branding. Okay. Deborah's blueprint was leadership. Okay. Phoebe's blueprint was, she was an administrator. What's your blueprint? Or do you just take on everybody else's blueprint? I'm asking y'all, do y'all know your blueprint? Y'all must be over there watching the Oscars.
No, I'm not watching. I don't know. I don't have a blueprint yet.
Not the Oscars.
No TV on right now.
You say you don't have a blueprint?
No, ma'am, I don't have a blueprint yet.
You have a blueprint. You just don't know it yet, right?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. So did you get the book, Ms. Sharon?
No, no, my friend got my book for me, and she still has it. We're meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
I do have a book, but I don't have it with me. Yeah.
I
I have the book, but my problem is identifying my blue. I mean, I got so much stuff in my head, you know, like I say that I'm a leader. Well, I am a leader.
Okay.
I would just say leadership.
Okay. And then, you know, when you think about your blueprint, so I've identified one of their signature, you know, blueprints, but you can have more than one.
Okay.
So yeah, because if you think about a blueprint, think about it. Think about a layout of a blueprint. When you're talking, they come up with a drawing and say if they're laying this blueprint out, they make little marks here, and this has a signature. And then they'll make another, you know, oh, well, this is the back to the building, but this is, you know, like this is where I want to have this signature thing here. So you want to think about your layout of what really makes you, you.
So is your blueprint like equivalent to your giftings?
It could definitely be a part of your gifting. It'd be your skills. It could be your knowledge base. And
Okay.
so those blueprints are, again, things that it's very, you're strong in. It's a strength for you. People come to you for that all the time. So for example, Deborah, and I give examples how, let me know, I want to do Deborah. Everybody knows Deborah was the judge. Huldah, the Huldas of ministry. Her thing was ministry. But let me tell y'all, I said, I'm going to tell you about Huldah. It says that, I said, Huldah was the wife of Shalom, the keeper of the royal wardrobe. Her husband kept the royal wardrobe. She was a prophetess. And she was a prophetess during the reign of King Josiah and was known for sitting, and this is what she was known for. This is her blueprint. She was known for sitting in the central part of the city, ready to receive and counsel anyone who wanted to know more about God, more about Jehovah. That was her blueprint. Huldah was serious about her gifts and her ministry. I said, talk about boss chick branding. Huldah was only mentioned once in the Bible. However, her brand as a teacher, strong communicator, lifelong learner, and a leader who advised others and helped men recover from lost truths and return their hearts to God still speaks volumes today. Huldah was mentioned one time. She had a whole blueprint. But all she did was sit, and people came to her. She sat in the cities in the center and counseled people and shared more about God. She used her gifts, ministry. She was a leader, a teacher, and a strong. That's what I mean by you can have. That's why I said when you start reading the book, you'll see a little bit more.
Okay.
And so you get your 5, you know, what do people come to you for? They went to Huldah because they wanted to be counseled. They wanted to know more about God. They wanted to know more. It says her spiritual gifts, Dr. Boland, of prophecy, skills as a strategist, and the ability to teach others made her a standalone brand. That's what I mean. So she used her gift. She had a spiritual gift, which was prophecy. Then she had a skill, which she was a strategist. And then she was had an ability to teach others that made her a signature kingdom boss chick. That was her blueprint. Okay. Huldah had developed a strong, reliable, and dependable brand. And when King Josiah asked, oh, this is a great one here. When King Josiah asked for the book to be interpreted, both his highest of priests and scribes, they looked for Huldah. That's how cold-blooded her brand was. She had a knowledge base and experience that opened a door for her that only she could walk through. Only Huldah could walk through the door. Only Huldah could read the book that King Josiah was looking for. This is the caliber of excellence women should strive for in your business, in the book, in the career, business, and ministry. You must be committed to developing and aligning your gifts, skills, talents, experience, and knowledge in order to live a life of destiny, promise, and purpose. And so when you think about all the things that we've been learning, ultimately in 30 days, we can't get it all, but I want you to start thinking about your practices of discipline when you're producing these programs, when you're producing new speaking engagements, Dr. Faith, Kiana, when you're expanding businesses, Tanya, when you're walking into that new classroom as that full-time faculty position, you can't do it alone. Who are you going to go to learn the ropes? But first, I'm moving to my fourth bullet. You got to have your identity before you create collaboration. So what I'm teaching is more so your belief in about, yes, your discipline and your practice, getting those structures in place. Because if I don't deal with this and you don't deal here, then when you start to collaborate with people, you'll miss some things. You'll start attaching your identity to their identity. You'll start thinking because she do her lesson plans like Blue, you need to do yours like Blue. And that's not true. She has a blueprint. You're kind of looking at her framework and say, oh, you're getting a structure, but you know your identity and how things work for you. So now you, instead of you adopting, you just adapt. And there's a difference. When you all adopt something, you assume someone's name. If you think about an adoption that takes place, whether you're adopting a child or an animal, when you adopt the animal, they come into your family, they said, they don't no longer belong to the SPCA. They belong to you. They're yours. You taking on their bills, their insurance. You taking care of this dog. You walking it. When you adopt a child in foster care, when you adopt it, they assume your last name. They assume in your house. They assume your food. Everything about you. They now become yours. But when you adopt something, when you adapt, all you're doing is making it for a new purpose. That's a big deal. So you need to know your identity because you'll start adopting instead of adapting. And when you do that, it impacts your destiny and in turn it impacts what you produce. It impacts your level of success. So I don't want to just deal with you coming up with plans of discipline and then you get out and start building relationships with people. And you find that you don't even know what you like. You don't even know what you thought. I'm very clear on my blueprint. And sometimes we'll get caught up in the pride of life, the lust of the eye, lust of the flesh, and we'll start trying to go and become something, and it's not a part of our identity. So I want us to deal with that. Is this good or not? Let me know. I don't want to waste, your time or anything. I just want to make sure that we cover this.
This is very good.
Cool. And I want to go through the strategic alliances and friendships. Now, know your identity before you collaborate. I want to stick to that too. Know your identity before you start to collaborate, because then you'll start to feel also, when you don't know your identity, you'll start to feel inferior. You know that feeling if you ever walked into the room and you see all these amazing women and you like, oh my God, now you know you amazing before you get out the car. But as soon as you walk in the room, you're like, ooh, there's some badness up in here. And you feel like you're the lesser person. When you know your identity, you're not going to say, ooh, they all greater than me. You're going to say, ooh, I'm adding value to this room. I belong here. Who are you talking to? Hey?
Amen.
And so that's what we want to start thinking, because as women, we put too much pressure on ourselves. We want to belong. We do, even as adults, as grown women. But if you know your identity, and that's why Blueprint is so good, because it helps you to start thinking about who you are, how God made you, and then how to create relationships and alliances with women who have a different blueprint. That way you can build businesses together. You can partner without getting upset. You can partner without getting too emotionally attached and saying she hurt you. She didn't hurt you because you built a strategic alliance. So you put a fine line between what this relationship is about. So when you know your identity, you're able to collaborate with individuals without shrinking, without feeling inferior. You know what you bring to the table. She may be great at one thing and you're great at another thing. You may, and you won't be inferior in, feeling like, oh, I don't really bring anything. So know your identity, strategic alliances and friendships. Y'all, this is so good. If you don't have this book, you need to get this. This is, if you don't get nothing else out of here. Listen, strategic alliances, I've learned they saved my life. Let me tell you, ladies, let me find the page for us to start talking. When you start building strategic alliances, that means strategically, I even have you a plan in here on how you strategically start. It says creating strategic alliances, page 78 for those of you who have it. I'm going to let you all go here in about 6 minutes. I said, as women, we often lose our strategic focus when building relationships. For some reason, we get all emotional, like we want these girlfriends. And we get our feelings hurt because we create unspoken expectations instead of alliances. It has been my experience that many women professionals confuse business relationships with friendship. And the relationship is more focused on establishing a social network instead of a business network, and each serves a different purpose. When you think about it, ladies, a social network provides you a group, a community of people to share similar ideas and interests. You want to make new friends. But a business network leverages your business and personal connections to bring you a regular supply of new business. See, I'm here to upgrade you. This is the thing. Whenever I'm somewhere, it's intentional and it's strategic. Who has time to have a family? Who has time to run a business and then just show up at every social event in the city? And see, I know this is a little hard for some people to swallow, but the thing is, when you start thinking of, and what I put in here, just so you won't think I'm so hardcore and hardwired, is if a friendship results from it, it is a plus. Y'all get that, ladies?
Mm-hmm.
However, we have to know that every association is not, I said, okay, Marsha, I said that if a friendship results from it, it is a plus. That's a plus for you. However, if I meet someone at an event, I get their business card, I go out to lunch with them, they're not my friend. I get in trouble every time I teach this. But you'll save yourself a lot of hurt and disappointment. If you disagree, agree, put it in the chat. We can talk about it. But just because you grab a card, you go out with someone, they're not your friend. And what we start to say is, oh, well, she treated me like she didn't even respond the way, because you had an expectation for this relationship. If you go in with a business mindset of, I'm creating a network with her to leverage some business and personal connections with one another, and we're going to go into this thing developing a relationship and a strategic alliance, and I want to get to know this person a little bit more before I start saying this is my friend. All right? It's a big deal, because that's why I said women can't work together. Yes, we can. We can work together when we have clear expectations. When we start to know, even if you develop a friendship, there's several friendships ruined because when you start doing business, you think you're doing it out of friendship. And those are two different guidelines. And so anyway, you have to read the Creating Strategic Alliances section. I go through Addie. Addie is a young lady, but it's assess, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. And I adopted that I'm in training and development, so I adopted it from the Addie model in the training world. But I created Addie as a person, and you can go through, how do you develop this strategic alliance? How do you do this? Am I developing a business relationship, or am I looking for a friendship? It's okay if you're looking for a friendship. You just have to know that that's what you are looking for. Okay? Do I operate from scarcity or abundance? This is the biggest part. If you're operating from scarcity and abundance, I want to caution you. Scarcity, I want to caution you from collaborations. I'm not saying don't do them. I'm saying be aware. that will kill your self-esteem. It will put it to rest. Rest in peace. R.I.P. I'm not talking from like, ooh, y'all better find out. No, I'm saying I know because I've experienced it. I know because I've lived it. When I did not feel as confident in what my blueprint was, I would go into a room of women and I would shrink immediately. And I'd be like, oh, I don't belong here. And so you start to say, well, I ain't gonna go. And some people, we have confidence, and we don't. And now over time, I've developed those things, and it's because I'm very clear on expectations. I know what I'm not going to expect from someone, and if I just meet them, I don't consider them a friend and put them in the category, as a friend and have these expectations for them. So if someone cancels on me, I don't say she's a bad person. I just said, you know what, we'll meet again next week or whatever. But then some people get off, she just thinks she don't have time, and because you don't put in the friend category. It's a business, strategic alliance. And so just helping us as you prepare to make changes and develop and produce, you're gonna have to do it with other women. You can't do it by yourself. So our action items is to identify your original blueprint. So I want everyone to really think about what your blueprint is, what's your strong points, what people seek after you for. When you come into the room, what do you bring with you? And so what do people lean on you for? Most of the time, I know that I'm a strategist. Everybody else that works with me or know me knows I'm a strategist. It's people who don't even care nothing about me, know that I'm a strategist, and they're not trying to be my friend. They'll call me and say, hey, Dr. Kimberly, I have this issue. I have this problem. I want you to walk through this with me. Maybe you can see a different perspective. They're not my friend. It's a strategic alliance. It's a business relationship. We're not going to go, the girls' night out together. I love them. They love me. We just not set up like that. And this is hardcore because we're not wired this way as women. Everybody is our friend. And then that's why we get hurt all the time. All the time. So, and as God takes you to a higher level, you have to build up a place of a true discernment, but also guidelines on what buckets you put people in. It's not saying you're a bad person. It's just saying that you have a strategy and you have a plan in place, and you can't just put people in the same people, everybody in one bucket. Okay. Identify your original blueprint. Write down what you bring to a strategic alliance. This is all in the book, but I want this for everybody. Identify your original blueprint. Write down what you bring to a strategic alliance. So what I mean by that is most people, say a mentor relationship or whatever, you feel that you're going to that relationship for something, but then what are you bringing to it as well? If you want a strategic alliance with someone, so there are several women I like to partner with. And I'm very clear on that. I would love to partner with certain women on certain things, whether it's conferences, events, masterminds where we just sit and kind of bounce things off each other, accountability, whatever. I'm very clear on, hey, let's create this mastermind. And so I'm bringing something to that alliance. And they're bringing something, or she or whomever. So what is it that you're bringing? And that way you won't feel that you're just, you're not getting ripped off, but you're not ripping nobody else off either. Like this person's just pouring and you're not pouring. What areas of scarcity do you need to change your mindset? Where do you need to change your mindset in your areas of scarcity? We all have them. There's no need to be ashamed of them. I mean, where is it that I used to think that I've always been really good with sharing space with women because I had sisters and, I was just my mom raised us in a different way. But I would still have scarcity based off of my insecurities or what if they like this person better than me? Or I remember at work, like I said, very little space. And I remember it was only two of us, two Black young women. We both were highly skilled, both had aspirations, and she would get opportunities that I wanted. And so I would just, try to stay in my lane, but I would give information, but not relinquish too much. So, I mean, some of that is using wisdom, but also just knowing where your scarcity marks are. So I want to know, what areas of scarcity do you need to change? Where do you need to change your mindset? What are some ways to eradicate this belief of scarcity? So if you see this area of scarcity, that's kind of, because I don't want you to come up against a block of producing, and then how can you eradicate it? What do you need to do? And you don't have to name names or anything like that. Your name, but I'm saying you don't have to say, well, this person or this thing or whatever. But I want you to say, how do you eradicate this belief? And then week 4, we will be talking about discipline to produce. We will talk about what you ladies are producing. What have you produced? It'll be your final week of really hashing out your micro goals to accomplish your macro purpose. And we will talk about what ways have you put in those strategies and what areas do we need to continue to work on.
Well, I just want to tell you because I feel I want to lay down.
So ladies, I'm going to turn off the recording.